Oh yes, what a way to begin our morning. What a way for us to begin that day. Today before I go, I want to thank two young ladies who are working in the background but making things happen for us in a mighty way. That is Sister Rhea Sampson and also Sister Brenda Gonzalez. I want to thank them immensely for the work that they are doing and making sure things happen, making sure I'm here on a morning and making sure I'm presenting a message in a way that I would like it to be presented. And I want to thank all those who have continued to support the program, those who recognize in their heart that this is a program that we need to have out there, the program that we need to present in such a way that the people can learn something. I want to thank you immensely for what you all have been doing. And this morning, I want to speak about emancipation and the Bible. And I want to speak from the point of the African and the Bible, but more so the issue of emancipation and the Bible. You know, anytime I look at the emancipation, the program for emancipation every year, it 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 trouble me in a mighty way because what I see from year to year is one and the same thing: elaborate plans on cultural programs, addresses at various venues by noted African scholars, and a host of meaningless engagement. Yes, I said meaningless. A host of meaningless engagements that will do nothing to alleviate the problems and suffering in the Afro-Trinidadian community. The problems that are faced this community are diverse and devastating. I want to say that this is not only um, in Trinidad it happens. I remember I was in Baltimore, I think, and I went to a conference, and there a scholar, a lady, she could have been my mother, and she asked me, she said, I'm going down to African American Day, and do you want to come with me? So I said, okay. So when I got there I was faced with these fellas with the pants on their backsides and the curse word and the carrying on and these half naked girls and anything other than uplifting to black people. And I remember saying to her, I'm there, I said, this is crazy. This is degradation of Afro people. And she turned hostile. This woman, I said she could be my mother. This woman was a doctor in sociology and a doctor in something else, and somebody who I thought was learned enough and experienced enough to recognize the danger and devastation of what we were looking at. And she went on to say to me, this is the problem with you Caribbean people. You are always looking down on us. And all I was trying to tell the lady that this what is portrayed here cannot uplift black people. She went that far to say, but these are the heroes. These are the heroes. And what are you trying to do? And things like that. And I said to myself, let me stay in my crease and let me behave myself. But it's the same thing I see is happening here in Trinidad. We are behind. When I say we now are talking about Afro people, we are behind in every possible aspect of the nation development. I know some of them would not like to hear me say that. And say for a very few, we are ahead in every negative and destructive behavior. This is something that apparently we are not looking at in the way it should be looked at. And because of that, we celebrate. And I keep asking myself, what is the reason for these celebrations? What is the reason? Very few young African children receive scholarships. If you go back to the scholarship winners, you will see there are very few among them. And if they continue, there will be very few. Marriage is not a popular activity within the Afro community either. Delinquent fathers and single mothers are many. And I'm going to say to you, research have shown that married people are 1/3 of the world's population are married people, but they own 2/3 of the world's goods. Immediately there, you understand where the Afro are in the whole issue of the world goods. By those figures I give you there. Language that contain words like my child father is also associated with this community. As young unmarried girls seem to have a passion for having one or more children before they are 20 years old. HIV, AIDS, and other sexual transmitted diseases are rampant in the community as lawlessness rages among young boys and are killing each other using guns in gang warfare. This is what you see in the diaspora. This is a community that is in disarray and in need of leadership. Leadership which the politicians will not provide for the bold decisions that are needed will result in the loss of votes, since change is always met with resistance. So don't expect political change. Expect the politicians to continue to appease. The Emancipation Committee, National Association for Empowerment of African People, NEAP, and the Black, the Black Business, something so their name with like that, are all albatross around the necks of Black people. They seem to be more concerned about leading Black people to rediscover an African identity than to rescue them from the squalor which they have now find themselves. These so-called African thinkers are bent on spending millions of taxpayers' money on cultural programs and inane lectures that will not rescue us from the morass and apathy that has descended upon us. They make an issue of attacking the one device that seems to be working and delivering Black people the world over, especially in the diaspora, from the chaos and degradation. In their ignorance, they attack the Bible as a white man's device and attempt to further discredit it by identifying the name King James Version, to suggest that King James has something to do with changes in the interpretation. And that's why I said that today I'm discussing Africa and the King James Version. Hence, they endorse these Black scholars who come among us once a year to tell us that we need to know our history and we need to know our names and we need to know our ascendancy. Because we had an ignorant politician who said that we are embracing slave names, and she got her own name. That's the heart of her ignorance of what is happening. And we are together with that. In fact, last week, she was speaking at an African Emancipation Day function in South as the keynote speaker. That's how trite we are. That's how we are as a people. And we are this way, and that is what we need to attend to, instead of speaking about the man, as Cambon said, if we know our name and we know our history and we move these statues, and if we do these things, then we know ourselves and become better people. There's no data to support that argument. There's no research that can support that argument. And I'm saying this morning, the one thing that has kept us, the one thing, historically or otherwise, the one thing that have proven for Black people is the one thing we are choosing to ignore and choosing not to promote. Who are the majority of successful Black people? Who are the ones who are not doing drugs, not having children, 2 and 3 different men, and who are the ones? Who are the ones? Who are the ones are not having abandoned fathers abandoning them and things? Who are the ones who are not killing and maiming each other? Who are the ones who are not crowding our courtrooms and jails? These are the people our so-called African thinkers need to observe and pattern our community after. But alas, they will not do that, for they will observe that the majority of these are the ones who read the very book they are trying to denigrate. That is the King James Version of the Bible. To assist my Afro-Trinidadian scholars out of the ignorance over the meaning of KJV, the King James Version, I want to cover a short history of the King James. The Jewish or Hebrew Bible, which is referred to as the Tanakh, which is an acronym, was written in classical Hebrew, the Semitic tongue spoken by the Israelites, and Aramaic, a dialect closely related to Hebrew. The entire New Testament is in Koine Greek, the common language of the first century world. Koine is derived from the fusion of classical Greek with the commercial vernacular of Near Eastern peoples, conquered by the armies of Alexander of Macedonia. In the mid-3rd century BC, the leaders of the Jewish colony found that the younger generation no longer understood classical Hebrew and appointed 72 scholars to translate the scriptures into Koine Greek. This translation is called the Septuagint, or the LX you see it in scholarly literature. The Bible was adopted by the Greek-speaking Christian and was later translated by Saint Jerome into Latin for the Latin-speaking Western Church. Now, I said something a while ago concerning about the Hebrews recognized that the children were no longer understanding the Hebrew or speaking the Hebrew, and they needed something needed to be done. We are at that crossroad right now, where we must recognize, the older ones must recognize that the children, the grandchildren are no longer speaking the language that they speak of honesty and kindness and chastity and things like that. And therefore, we need to find out why. You see, back in the old days, we all know about having church clothes, church shoe. We all know about going to church, not only when there's a funeral or a wedding, but we all knew about going to church. There are children today who go an entire year without going to church anywhere. And if there's no wedding or there's no funeral, they'll go for years until one of those things happen. That was not always common in our community. It was not. All translation until the 1500s were rendered from Jerome's translation, which was done from the Hebrew manuscript, produced between 385 and 405 CE. No original copy, I want to say this, no original copy of any biblical book has survived. Countless ancient copies of the Hebrew Bible or parts thereof were lost during the destruction of Jerusalem and its temple by the Babylonians in 587 BC and by the Romans in 70 CE. The oldest complete copies now available were those made in the 9th, not to do with King James, I want you to understand this, in the 9th and 10th century. These are largely the work of medieval Jewish scribes called Masoretes, who added vowels, symbols to the Hebrew script. In the 1730s, a Benedictine monk, Venerable Bede, rendered part of Jerome's Latin Vulgate into Old English. To make the scriptures more accessible to the British, John Wycliffe, an English priest, translated both the Old and New Testament. However, and I want you to follow me this morning, however, the Catholic Church, fearing the effect of Bibles in the popular language, forbade any future translation. Now, this added part of the ignorance. When the church took the scriptures away and gave them little pamphlet and little writing so that they can they can indulge themselves in the corruption of the church. The people grew more ignorant. Johannes Gutenberg invented the invention of the printing press, and the Protestant Reformation enhanced the Bible's distribution. In 1603, James I, son of Mary, Queen of Scots, appointed 54 scholars to make a new version of the British Bible for official use in the English church. I want you to follow this. When these fellows come to you with the ignorance and talk about the King James Version, I want you to follow me this morning and recognize that King James had nothing to do with it, and there are more underlying issues in the Afro community that is creating the problem than just want to know the names and just King James having some make on them. In 1611, after using the oldest manuscripts then available, it was completed and called the Authorized or the King James Version. It's not an aversion. It's not an aversion. It came out of Jerome Latin translation. It came out of the oldest known text at the time, the Sinaiticus and things like that. It's not King James trying to fool Black people. And I'll come back to the Bible and Black folks in a while. I hope I have enough time to get there. The civil laws of all Western nations were developed and shaped by the King James Version of the Bible. And that's why you don't have all this crime in Western Europe. That's why you have a place like Sweden and things like that. The entire year will pass and they have 8 and 9 murders. Well, in Trinidad, we have 500 and something in some years, because these societies are post-Christian societies. The laws, their behavioral pattern, their culture was developed based on the principle of this King James Version of the Bible I'm talking about. And as they move away from scriptures, as they now do, the civic laws and the behavioral patterns of the Bible has become their culture. Those societies have prospered based on the principles and concepts that continue to make Israel and Jewish people progressive today. What is needed in the Afro-Trinidadian community is the King James Version. The Bible is a way to deliver us from the abyss that we have found ourselves. The Bible promotes marriage, an event that is dying among Blacks in the diaspora. It is said that 1/3, I said that before, 1/3 the word population, but they own the word good. There's a relation between marriage and wealth. And herein lies part of the Afro-Trinidadian problem, or the Afros and the diaspora problem. But this is not taught or promoted by the Emancipation Committee or NEAP or the Black Caucus or none of that. Or the Ministry of Culture. In fact, the Ministry of Culture seem unable, unwilling or unable, or they just don't care about promoting the culture and the history of Black people in a meaningful way. Religion, especially Christianity, has been the driving force behind most successful Blacks in the diaspora. Those who win scholarships and excel in the classroom are the ones who have embraced religion, especially Christianity. This I discovered many years ago. It was part of my early research. I recognize that here, these folks, these Black folks who are into religion, especially Christianity, they are the ones who are soaring in school and soaring here. And I recognize those who find themselves in jail and in drugs and roots are those who have not been able, for some reason or the other, to embrace religion, especially Christianity. Another of my discoveries are those who spend a lot of time on the basketball courts and the football grounds are the ones who are likely to do drugs and indulge in illicit sex. It's a fallacy that what we need in our communities are sporting facilities. You hear it all the time from these Black thinkers. That's a Pharisee. That's a Pharisee. And I'm not saying that because I played sports. In fact, I went for trial for Caroni East in under 19 cricket. I played cricket. I was the captain of the cricket team and I was an apprentice at TNT. I played cricket, I played basketball, I played football. So I'm not against sports. But when you are trying to promote sport outside of other things and say that this will bring some sort of deliverance of Black people, you're missing the mark. You're missing mark. Those who take an active interest in God are not found behind bars or engaging in destructive behaviors, but are our tomorrow. It's a painful experience for me, year after year, to listen to the call for funding by NGOs for young people to beat drums and whine in the street in the name of emancipation. What is culture? What is culture? And for those who jump in after every nonsense the right say in America and speaking about cancel culture now, ask yourself what is culture and if culture can be canceled. Ask yourself what is culture. I want these Afrocentric leaders to understand that the destructive behaviors that are expressed in the Black neighborhoods have become cultural expressions. They are now a way of life, an expectation by all of what should happen. Their heroes come from this tarnished culture. Their heroes come from that same culture. This is a natural result of the promotion of human expression based on rebellion of social norms and structures and without the concept of a true God. It seems there is no persistent effort to encourage education and personal, professional development of our people by any one of our leaders. There's no persistent. It may be done in speaking, but there's no persistent measure, no persistent speaking about it. They are more persistent in speaking about culture, in speaking about pan and calypso and soca. They are more persistent in talking about how the expression of the culture and let's proclaim pan as the national instrument and let's do this and let's go to Grenada to see what the carnival is like so we can have a better carnival in Tobago. That's the foolishness that has been pushed forward in the Black community. It seems also that the media are behind a campaign to present to the public certain personalities as Black leadership, an inane and vacuous leadership that our children see as the people to follow. Somebody must put a stop to this. Failing to do so will certainly sell the Afro communities down the road to servitude. I hope somebody is listening to me this morning. I hope that somebody with the power and the ability to do something about it is listening to me this morning. And for those ignoramus who continue to see the King James Version as a white book, there's nothing white in the King James Version. From the rivers that God created when he spoke in the Garden of Eden, to Paul very stay, for John very stay at Patmos. It's a book full of Mediterranean place and Afro places. In fact, every time you see the word Ethiopia in the Bible, Ethiopia means home of the burned faces. There are no white burned faces. When the Bible said that that Abraham left Ur of the Chaldees, where's Ur? And who are the Chaldeans? Ur is the capital of Chaldees. As Chaldeans are Black folks, Afro folks. This is where Abraham came from. He came to the River Jordan, he crossed the River Jordan, And by crossing the River Jordan, they said he was a Hebrew because no one crossed the River Jordan. So when he crossed the River Jordan, no one head south. They had some ominous thinking of what would happen to you if you head south. And when Abraham crossed that River Jordan, after a while, all his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren, they were known as children of the Hebrews from Abraham, who came from Ur of the Chaldees. Where you got the idea that Christianity and the King James Version is a white book? Where you arrive at that? There is no place like England and France in the Bible. When the Bible mentioned them, it mentioned them as vagabonds and savages. When it mentioned the people coming from the Burgundians and the Saxons, and they were known as savages. The Bible mentioned them as savages. So where did we get this idea from? I will continue. Let's open the lines and I will continue after Alex, you're there?
Absolutely. All right. So as Pastor suggests, let's take some calls, 622-4911, and chat with Pastor Browne. It's the program Victorious Lifestyle. Phone lines are open, and Pastor, you may continue.
Yes. So when we come to this place where we look at Afro in the sense that they are being misled, people want to mislead you. As I keep saying to folks, I came from the Muruga Road. On the Muruga Road have these companies. These companies are after the war, the Civil War in America, Africans who came from Guinea and things like that. The company that they were in, they send them to Canada, they send them to the Caribbean, and they settled in Muruga.
Pastor, we have a call coming in here.
Sure.
All right, let's take this one. Good morning, welcome. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Pastor Browne.
Good morning.
I want to thank you for all the research and everything that you are doing to enlighten people. This is the age of enlightenment. And as you spoke about, time is running out on mankind. I agree with you,
Mm-hmm.
Because, as this old saying goes, that all who have eyes to see, let them see, and ears to hear, let them hear. Now, you know what is most amusing? I mean, pathetic, but, you have to put a smile on your face. Everybody attacks Christianity.
Oh, yes.
And the Bible.
Oh, yes.
Because you know why? Christians in this time, in this age, they do nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
They will turn the other cheek. But you dare not attack the Quran or the Muslim thing. They put a bounty on your head.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't say nothing there.
I hear you.
They get a free pass. But you can open your mouth and slap the King James Version around, Christianity around, you can slap us around.
Mm-hmm.
We say nothing, we do nothing. But you dare not attack the other books though. See what happened.
Yeah.
Simon Rusty had to go into hiding. You understand? And I am glad that you are talking about the degradation in the African diaspora.
Yeah.
Right? Something is happening and we're not paying attention. So I like all the research that you're doing. You're really doing the work,
Thank you.
And God bless you, sis.
Thank you very much.
And it's amusing that they attack Christianity and the King James Bible, but you will dare not attack the Quran and the other religion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sis. Have a good day.
Thanks for calling in, Pastor. We have another one on the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, let's take this call. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Pastor Browne, and those who are listening. It is quite strange also that among the African community, the men and them who pushing against the Bible, they speak about Judaism and they say Judah was one tribe. So all the sanctuary service and things didn't apply to the other 11 tribes because it is Judah. All these kind of things is something else. And when you look at it, I was watching at sports the other day. They're pushing black people to sports, and I find it was like Baywatch. You have the older people in the tights and the panty and the thing, and now you're having the youths in the panty and the camera man doing all kind of thing. I stopped watching because I realized if we're pushing people in that direction, why have the people dressing so?
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. And when we watch it, you say sport and people could run, but your morality is being eroded by just watching this thing in your subconscious. Yeah. When we're looking at also at the Bible, we have to look also at the things that the as they say the community does in order to weaken your moral stance.
Yes, and he's right. And he's right. They see, when you move the Bible out of the Afro community, he already doesn't have a history in diaspora here. It has been trampled on through slavery. The one thing to give him values, to set him ahead, you are trying to attack that one thing. And they're using what they're doing to attack this thing is use people who look like him, who parade as our heroes, who are as ignorant as they come. But they use these same ignorant folks to push against the scriptures, and other unsuspecting young black men and women see them and see what they are saying as things that is making sense. There are some of our black folks who have gone through they have gone to the other extreme, where they want to push the Africanness of the Bible more than the saving grace of God, more than the power of Jesus to transform, more than that desire to change and make us better human beings. So you are caught between those who are just want to undermine us, and then those who want to use the Bible as a club and say it's an African book and these are African. It will not help. The focus is the teaching and the principle that could be read into our lives that will cause us to be different and better people. Not perfect. We'll falter, we'll fall. We have shortcomings. But there's a principle there that if we walk with that principle, surely we'll see that dawn one day. Alex, is anybody else there? I could continue.
At the moment, yes, we have another one. I was just really listening to what you were saying there. Let's take this one. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning to you, sir, and morning to Mr. Alex, Trinidad and Tobago.
Morning, thank you.
In many ways, sir, that you are right in many ways, because from 85, I was one of the forerunners in the emancipation celebration, and we should all go there and sing and pray and think for post-senior comprehensive. And not one day the powers that be who runs it never give us any, not even a plaque or a piece of paper saying thank you. And we were always there for them. So I started to rebel because I stopped wearing the clothing. I might be there walking. I ain't wearing the clothing and all them kind of thing like I used to do before. I mean, I lost faith in the whole situation when emancipation is concerned. Because all we could do the forerunners that we labor faith. So probably that is why it's going down that direction, that the knowledge and all is even slipping because the top brass more on the dollar. Sorry to say that, but it looks so. Locked on and listening.
Okay then. Thank you. But don't let people stop you from being who you are. Put on your clothing and be part of who you are. Don't let people stop you. Don't let man stop you. Because men will always do things that you may dislike. Sometimes they are right and you dislike what they're doing too. So don't let men stop you. You be persuaded and make sure you are convinced in your heart and mind that what you are doing is right. Anybody else, Alex? I can just.
At the moment, nope.
Yeah.
You may continue and close off.
Yeah. If you follow the Bible, the scriptures in the Bible, if you follow personality and you ask yourself, how could Moses, a Jew, be in Egypt where there are black people? How could he walk around as king or as prince, and he was a Jew as the Jews that you know Jews to be today, as those guys in Israel? Would they not have noticed that this prince is close to Caucasian than anything else? And how did Zipporah, when she saw Moses and he filled the water for her, and her father asked her, how did you fill the water? And she said, an Egyptian filled the water for me. How did she not recognize that Moses was a Jew? And how could she mistaken a Jew for an Egyptian? And how did Joseph brothers, when they went back to their father and they said to him, the Egyptian said, send Benjamin. How did they not notice that he was one of them? I'll tell you why they did not notice that he was one of them. Because they were all one people. They were all one people. And since we know Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees, and they call him Father Abraham, then we have a clear understanding of what these folks look like. So Moses was up and down in Egypt as a prince of Egypt, and they just saw him simply as another Egyptian. Joseph's brother just saw him as another Egyptian who is in charge of what is happening here. Zipporah saw Moses with the clothing he had on, and she recognized those are clothing from Egypt. And when her father asked her who filled the water, she simply said, an Egyptian filled the water. When they held Paul in Rome and they asked him, were you not the Egyptian who created all this problem here in Rome? Now, how could they say a Jew, as a Jew that you fellas know as Jews? How they could mistake him for Egyptian? How? How? Because it's like I standing somewhere. If I don't open my mouth and you hear my accent, you can think I'm a Bajan, I'm a Ghanese, I'm a St. Lucian, I'm anything until I speak. Until I speak. Because a Bajan will look like me, an Egyptian will look like me, a Ghanese will look like me, a St. Lucian will look like me, all of them could look just like me. You will not know I'm Trinidadian until I begin speaking. The King James Version of the Bible is not a Bible that was written by King James. It's not a Bible that was influenced in any way by King James. The King James Version was simply King James wanted it in the language of his subjects that they can read it for themselves, and he appointed scholars to do just that. And because he was the one who paid for it, and he was the one who appointed the scholars to get it done, the book was called the King James Version. No other reason. And there's no original manuscript anyhow. All these things were done by copyists throughout the years. But Jerome, two things changed the game. Was Jerome translation into Latin, and Johannes Gutenberg printing press. That changed the whole game. So folks, we gotta go now. until next week, Alex, until God bless you and your family, be safe, because it's getting very, very, very topsy-turvy out here now. So be safe.